Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, we shall be taking respiration under biology. And please, I beg your pardon to go to the subscription box, subscribe, so that we can be keeping you updating for our classes. It's very important. So this class is majorly for JAM students, YX students, NECO, NAPTET, and any other exams. So the class you are does not restrict you from learning from this very class. So you can also learn sciences as you keep subscribing and following us. So today we'll be looking at respiration. What is respiration? Most at times, once you ask people or students to define respiration, then they tell you it's breathing in of oxygen and breathing out carbon dioxide. So today we shall be looking in details what this respiration is. Very important, based on the marking scheme of WAEC, NECO, JAM, or any other exams. So please make sure you subscribe, as I said, as you follow us. So when you say respiration, there are some key basic terms or words you need to consider in the definition. Like, if you're talking about respiration now, then it's important you know that it's a biological reaction. So the number one thing you need to know that is a what? Biological what? Reaction. So it's a reaction. That's the first thing. It's a what? Reaction, but a biological reaction, or you can call it a biochemical, or let's use the word biochemical reaction. That's what you need to know. Then secondly, another term that is most important is the cell. We must talk about what? Cells. So you must talk about cells when defining respiration. Then the next thing here, you must talk about glucose. We must talk about what? Glucose. We must mention the word enzymes. So we are also looking at what? The roles that an enzymes play when it comes to respiration. So we can talk about what? Enzymes. Then we must talk about what? Energy, carbon dioxide, water. So if your definition captured this, then I think you have done justice to what respiration is all about. Okay, can we try to put it in a sentence? Like I said, you must carry a reaction, you must talk about cells, you must talk about glucose, enzymes, energy, carbon dioxide, and water. So we must have this in your definition for it to be accepted. Now, if I want to put this in a sentence, I can say that respiration is a biochemical reaction or a biological reaction that takes place in the cells. That takes place where? In the cells, in which glucose is broken down through a series of reactions that involve enzymes. Glucose is broken down through a series of reactions that involves enzymes, either in the presence or absence of oxygen. So you must talk about the presence and also the absence of what? Oxygen. So either in the presence or absence of oxygen to give us energy, carbon dioxide, and what? And water. So if you can define it like that, then I think you are very okay. So let me take it again. It's a biochemical or biological reactions that occurs in the cells in which glucose is broken down through a series of reactions that involves enzymes, either in the presence or absence of oxygen, to give us what? Energy, water, and what? Carbon dioxide. So that is it about what? About respiration. Now, the major aim of this respiration now is this energy. We are going to talk about energy. Energy. What is the importance of energy? Can we look at them? What are the importance of what? Energy. Energy. So if you want to talk about the importance of energy now, one, we can talk about movement. The ability of the organisms to move from one place to another is achieved by the amount of energy in the systems. If there is no energy in the system, then the animal will look so weak. So that's number one thing, number one importance of energy, to move, ability to move from one place to another. We can talk about excretion. Energy is also used for what? Excretion in living organisms. Energy can also be used in what? Reproduction. Reproduction. So for the sperm cells to fertilize an egg, they need to be energetic. If they are weak, they cannot what? Fertilize an egg. So these are some of the importance of energy. So energy can also be used to what? To maintain body temperature. It can also be used for what? Respiration and etc. So there are more importance of this energy. Now, you see, in the definition, we talk about glucose. So where do you obtain the glucose? You know, mostly for respiration to take place, digestion has already what? Taken place. So this glucose, most people ask, okay, or the normal question I do ask people is that, if you breathe in oxygen, how do you breathe in what? Carbon dioxide. Where is the carbon obtaining or gotten from? Right? And this carbon, we should know that is obtaining from where? The food substance we consume. That is from glucose. If, for example, I ate food such as a carbohydrate food, such as bread or yam, rice, if this product are being digested in the system, the products of digestion they are giving us, or if they are being digested in the system, is called what? Glucose. So it is this glucose that will be absorbed, which it's important we know the function of the small intestine. We said the small intestine performs two functions, and one of the function is to digest food, and the second function is to what? Absorb what? Food substances. So if you eat bread, rice, or yam, for example, what you are going to obtain as the product of digestion is called what? Glucose. So now, when this glucose is obtained in the small intestine, it is absorbed at the villi of the small intestine, right? It is absorbed at the villi, where it is then channeled into the blood. So if this glucose is being channeled into the blood, it's taken around the body system, where it is being deposited at the cells of the body. We can have cells in the brain that also have this glucose, cells in your hands, finger, legs, everywhere from your body that carries this glucose. Now, when you breathe in oxygen, the oxygen mixes with this and breaks the glucose down to what is known as energy. Because you should know that the glucose itself is a 6-carbon sugar. So when it is being metabolized, that is in the cell, the glucose will follow 10 steps of reaction. You can call it glycolysis. You can call it tissue respiration, where the glucose will be broken down to give you a 3-carbon sugar known as pyruvate. Pyruvate is a 3-carbon sugar. So it is this pyruvate that can be converted to glycogen and be stored during what? During fasting. So storage glucose in the body is known as what? Pyruvate, or is also called what? Pyruvate. Very important. So if you can have this basic understanding about respiration, how it produces energy, then we are going a long way. So the number 2 thing I want us to note here are the types of respiration. So most of the times, if you ask people now to give an example or differentiate between the types of respiration, they give you what? Stages. Now, we have both stages and what? Types. So if you're talking about the types of respiration, types of respiration, there are basically 2. So we have basically 2 types of respiration. One is called aerobic. Aerobic what? Respiration. And 2 is called what? Anaerobic what? Respiration. So we have what? Anaerobic what? Respiration. So can you see these are the basic 2 types of respiration? So can we discuss about this? Let's talk about the aerobic what? Respiration. What you call aerobic respiration? What does that mean? When we are talking about aerobic respiration, this is simply the types of respiration that takes place in the presence of oxygen. It's simply what? The types of respiration that takes place in the presence of oxygen. So in this very particular types of respiration, the glucose in the cell is broken down to give us energy, water, and carbon dioxide. Hope we are following. So in this type of respiration, the byproduct we are obtaining is what? Energy, water, and what? Carbon dioxide. Very, very important. So the difference is that this one takes place what? In the presence of what? Oxygen. So that is why in the definition, as you can see, we said that respiration can either take place in the presence or in the absence of oxygen. Very, very important we note that. So can we move to the anaerobic what? Respiration. Anaerobic what? Anaerobic what? Respiration. So this type of respiration takes place in where? In the absence of oxygen. So oxygen is not required for this respiration to take place. That's what? Anaerobic what? Respiration. Now, in this type of respiration, glucose is broken down in the cells in the absence of oxygen. Now, the basic product or byproduct obtaining in this very reaction is what? You must have your energy, your carbon dioxide, and what? And water. Sorry, not water, alcohol. And what? Alcohol, or you can call it what? Ethanol. So in this case, can you see the differences now? The other one will say it takes place in the presence of oxygen. We are having energy, carbon dioxide, and what? And water for the aerobic. For the anaerobic, we are having energy, carbon dioxide, and ethanol or alcohol. So very, very important. Very, very important. So, like, what are the conditions necessary for this respiration to take place? What are the conditions necessary for respiration to take place? So, one of the conditions is the presence, or is what we call ventilation. So, we can talk about ventilation. Very important. Ventilation. Ventilation is one of the conditions necessary for respiration to take place. Respiratory medium, that is, we are referring to the environment, is one of the conditions for respiration to also take place. Then we can have respiratory organ. Respiratory organ is also what? Another condition for this respiration to take place. Very, very important. So the last but not the least for today's class, we should be talking about the stages of respiration. The stages of what? Respiration. So basically we have two stages. Stages of what? We have two stages. One, it is called the external stage of what? Respiration. Then, okay, let's talk about this. Now, external stage of respiration. This one is also called inspiration. We can also call it what? Inspiration. And we can also call it expiration. Expiration. So if you're writing JAM, please note these names, or they can decide to ask you to explain inspiration or expiration or external respiration. These three terms are what? They are still the same. They are similar. So once they say to explain expiration, they are equally referring to what? To external stage of what? Respiration. And what happened in this stage? There's nothing too serious here. This is when oxygen makes contact with the respiratory what? Surface. When the air you breathe makes what? Contact with the respiratory what? Surface or organ. Number two, we can talk about the internal what? Internal stage. So here, a lot of work is done here. We can also call this one tissue. We can also call it tissue what? Respiration. Or we can call it inhalation or exhalation. So you can call this one what? Inhalation or exhalation. Very, very important. Please note this. And you can also refer to it as what? Tissue respiration. So in this case now, the glucose in the cell, this is also similar as glycolysis. It's also similar as what? Glycolysis. So in this case now, glucose in the cell cells is being broken down through a series of reactions. You know, I've mentioned something like that. So that's the same thing as what? Tissue respiration or internal respiration. Glucose is broken down in the cells through a series of reactions that involves enzymes. Like, what is the first enzyme that breaks down glucose in the cell? It is called what? It is called kinase. So if this enzyme breaks down glucose, it will give you glucose 6-phosphate. Though I'm coming to glycolysis, so I think when I come, we'll talk much about this. Or we'll talk about the glycolysis and Krebs cycle. So maybe you'll appreciate that. Let me not give you much work on this aspect. So when you enjoy what we mean by this tissue respiration when we get to glycolysis, because we are going to explain all the processes, then tells you the enzymes that are responsible for breaking down glucose to pyruvate. So glucose may be broken down to pyruvate. Like I said earlier, this is 3 carbon sugar. So that's what you mean by what? Internal stage of respiration. And it is this pyruvate that when it gathers in the blood, it will be converted to glycogen. So this glycogen is a storage what? Glucose, or is a storage sugar in the blood. So by the time your insulin is not able to convert the excess sugar in your blood into glycogen, that's what results to diabetes mellitus. So we are also going to look at that in details. But for today's class, you are just meant to understand what the stages of respiration. So if you have any question, you can go to the comment side, then you drop your question there. We'll answer you shortly. Thank you.
Bravo, bravo.